Welcome to Short Story Stash. On today's episode, we continue the chronicles of Appalachia as Tallulah prepares to enter the sacred mountain. Prepare to be captivated by this supernatural tale of courage, mystery, and the unknown. Stay tuned and let the story unfold.
After many hours of traveling, Tallulah and her escort arrived at the Great Mine, the large gaping maw in the side of the mountain where piles and piles of black gold had been carved from the earth was shaped almost like the mouth of a shark, with sharp stalactites protruding from the top like teeth dripping with water thickened by the dust that had accumulated in the area. Ahiga and Tahoma stood about 50 yards from the entrance, their silhouettes stark against the bright daylight. Ahiga, the larger of the two, stood silent and imposing, his rich brown eyes fixed on the mine's entrance. His loyalty to Chief Tekum was unwavering, and he would not hesitate to carry out any order given to him. Tahoma, on the other hand, was a reminder of Tallulah's past. Though smaller in stature, his presence brought a sense of comfort, his midnight blue eyes holding a glimmer of the friendship they had once shared. Ahiga speaks the first words he said the entire trek. He says in an oddly higher-pitched voice than one would expect given his stature, his eyes narrowing as he points towards the mine. "This is as far as we can take you. The remainder of the journey must be made by you alone." Tahoma hands her a torch, his hands trembling slightly as he presses it into her palm. He chokes out, his voice thick with emotion. "Good luck, Tallulah. I hope you come back." She smiles back at them softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I hope I do too," she whispers, taking a deep breath and squaring her shoulders as she walks straight into the mouth of the mine. As Tallulah ventured further into the mine, the air grew thick and heavy, the darkness pressing in on her from all sides. The small torch provided by Tahoma cast a flickering light on the rough-hewn walls, revealing the scars left behind by the countless miners who had come before her. Inside the mine, Tallulah's footsteps echoed through the empty tunnels, the sound bouncing off the walls and disappearing into the depths. She couldn't help but feel a sense of unease, as if the mountain itself was watching her every move. The torch's light danced across the stone, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. As she delved deeper, Tallulah began to notice strange markings on the walls. At first, she thought they were simply the remnants of the miners' tools, but as she drew closer, she realized they were something else entirely. The markings were intricate, almost like a language she had never seen before. They seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if they were alive. Tallulah's heart raced as she continued on, the markings becoming more frequent and more complex. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being drawn towards something, as if the mountain was guiding her steps. The air grew colder, and a faint breeze whispered through the tunnels, carrying with it the scent of something ancient and powerful. She walked alone in the inky darkness of the mine for what seemed like hours. As Tallulah continues deep into the mine, she hears a faint sound, like a great bonfire echoing off the rocky walls. The flickering light danced across the tunnel, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. Concerned that someone might be in danger, Tallulah quickened her pace, rounding a corner only to find herself face to face with a massive wall of burning coal. The sight was mesmerizing, the flames licking at the blackened surface in a hypnotic dance. But as Tallulah approached, she realized something was amiss. Despite the intensity of the fire, there was no heat radiating from it. With a fire this size, it would surely put off ungodly temperatures, right? The air around her remained cool and damp, a stark contrast to the inferno before her. Suddenly, a low, haunting voice whispered from beyond the flames. "Enter the fire, child of the green." It beckoned, the words seeming to hang in the air like a physical presence. The words sent a shiver down Tallulah's spine, and she called out into the darkness, her voice trembling slightly. "Who's there?" The voice responded, clearer and more insistent this time, its tone almost commanding. "Enter the fire, child of the green, for you shall not be harmed," it repeated, the words echoing through the chamber. Tallulah hesitated, her instincts warring with her curiosity. Cautiously, she took a step closer to the burning wall, expecting to feel the searing heat against her skin.
But instead, she was greeted by a sensation akin to a gentle mist, as if she were standing on the shore of a vast sea.
Emboldened by this discovery, Tallulah reached out a tentative hand, letting her fingers brush against the flames, her eyes widening in wonder as they passed through unscathed. To her amazement, they passed through unscathed, the fire parting around her like a curtain. With a deep breath, she stepped through the wall of coal, emerging on the other side into a sprawling chamber, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. The room was dimly lit, illuminated by the soft glow of crystals that clung to the stalactites above. In the center of the chamber stood an ancient stone table, flanked by two crudely carved chairs. But it was the figure seated in one of those chairs that caught Tallulah's attention, her breath catching in her throat as she took in its imposing form. A massive, hooded creature loomed before her, its form both humanoid and distinctly otherworldly. From beneath the hood protruded an impressive array of horns, their twisted forms casting strange shadows on the rocky walls. The creature's eyes, a striking amber hue, seemed to glow with an inner light, fixing Tallulah with an unwavering gaze that seemed to pierce her very soul. As the creature rose to its full height, Tallulah couldn't help but gasp, her eyes widening in awe and trepidation. It stood at least 8 feet tall, its cloak not quite long enough to conceal the cloven hooves that peeked out from beneath the hem. The being took a long, deliberate sniff of the air, as if trying to ascertain Tallulah's identity through scent alone, its nostrils flaring with each intake of breath. Then, with a slight bow in her direction, the creature spoke in a low, growling voice that reverberated through the chamber, its words filled with a strange mix of warmth and authority. "Welcome, child of the green. I have been expecting you for some time," it rumbled, its amber eyes glinting in the dim light. It gestured towards the empty chair across the table, its movements fluid and graceful despite its imposing size, as if inviting her to join it. "Sit, child," it urged, its tone soft and reassuring, as if trying to put Tallulah at ease, even as its very presence seemed to fill the room with an almost palpable sense of power. Cautiously, Tallulah made her way to the center of the room, lowering herself onto the stone seat, her movements slow and deliberate as she tried to calm her racing heart. Now, face to face with the creature, she could see more clearly the features hidden beneath its cloak. The head of a great black stag emerged from the shadows, its fur a deep, glossy onyx that seemed to absorb the light around it. As it breathed, wisps of steam curled from its nostrils, dissipating into the cool, damp air of the chamber, as if the very breath of the creature held a power of its own. Tallulah's heart raced as she tried to make sense of the surreal scene before her mind reeling with questions and uncertainties. She had no idea what this creature was or what it wanted with her. Tallulah's voice trembled as she spoke, her words laced with confusion and self-doubt, her hands fidgeting nervously in her lap. Why did you choose me? I'm nothing but a lowly outcast." The stag's amber eyes widened, a mixture of surprise and concern flickering across its ancient face as it leaned closer to her. "Child, do you not know of the power you possess?" it asked, its voice soft yet insistent, its breath warm against her skin. Tallulah shook her head, her long dark hair swaying with the movement, her eyes downcast. No, sir. All I was ever told was that I was a witch and not welcome near the tribe. All because I gave a newborn foal the gift of life," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. The stag's expression darkened, a flash of anger sparking in its eyes at the mention of the tribe's ignorance and cruelty, its nostrils flaring with indignation. "Well, child, we have an issue at hand," it said, its voice low and serious, its gaze intense and unwavering. "You have no idea what was expected of you, to no fault of your own, before you were to be sent for. With that said, are you willing to do what is necessary to continue your path?" Tallulah paused, her mind racing as she considered the stag's words, her brow furrowed in concentration. She knew that returning home without success was not an option. With a hesitant nod, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I suppose so."
Thank you for joining us today on Short Story Stash. Next week we will continue Tallulah's journey through the mine and her encounter with the sacred mountain spirit. Be sure to like and subscribe to never miss new stories. Until next time, Story Stashers.